Hey guys, how do we keep it dirty off-road? We're here at Suspensions Direct to take a look at their E-Click system for the Raptors.
The way it handles it's nuts, man.
Yeah, right?
It's like mid-travel.
Well, come on in, check out SDI. So it's our little showroom, shows primarily what we do in the past, been making all of the motocross parts, UTV parts. We have an E-Click display that we can show people how easily you can make the shocks as soft as you want or as firm as you want in fractions of a second. You can play with our controller, look at all our different programs, look at the different drive modes. We have street mode, manual mode, or trail mode. Each of those settings you can go in and you can adjust independently your front and your rear compensations on how you want the shocks to be. And in Pro, you can go in and adjust your pitch, your roll, your turning, your throttle, your braking sensitivity to your particular driving.
How are the drive modes impacted by the truck's drive modes, or does that change?
We don't affect them whatsoever. We have a terrain mode, so if you're rocky, you want softer kind of ride.
Right.
We have a street mode, so if you want more composure to keep it flatter, less body roll, that sort of stuff on the road. And then we have a desert mode, and desert mode's when you know you're going to be driving it harder, faster, and it sets the shocks up accordingly.
So in other words, you're unlocking 3 modes per drive mode.
Yes.
So like your standard mode, mild mode, you can do 3 modes on top of that. Sport mode, 3 modes on top of that. And Baja, 3 modes on top of that, right?
And then each of those modes, you can adjust those 5 parameters as well, right? So you can really dial it into your particular driving, because my driving is going to be different than your driving, different from Cesar's driving, Hector's driving. It's going to be all different.
You can also add preload to the rear if you're towing.
Yeah. So
that's kind of cool.
Yeah, there is one more mode. We changed it on the Raptor so it's easy to get, but you can go in and adjust rear load compensation by 25, 50, 75, 100% more rear load.
A lot of people are going to love that.
Right, so if you hook up a trailer or load up for the day, family of 4, your tools, your cooler, all that kind of stuff, you just tell it how much more rear load compensation you need.
You tow with yours, right? How does that work?
I towed this past weekend for the Sanford show, and it just handled great.
Now, I think it's important to know, guys, these guys didn't just start with this system. They've been doing motorcycles, UTVs for a very long time.
15 years.
So they have a lot of experience with off-roading and what it takes to be able to get the most out of suspension. And you guys saw the clips of the trucks. You'll understand what I mean. Watching that stock live valve truck perform was impressive. While we were there, we also took a shop tour of SDI, and we were very impressed. I have a lot of machines. They do a lot of their parts in-house. They have a shock dyno here that they really can test shocks. They do a lot of prototyping, and they work on a ton of different vehicles, including UTVs, shock rebuilding, and we got a chance to take a look at their Jeep. This Jeep is pretty impressive, guys. We even got a chance to drive it. That's going to be for another video, so stay tuned for that. Before we get into showing you guys what the system can do, we want to show you what it is. So let's take a look at these trucks right here. We have Cesar's truck. Cesar's, yours is a 2019, right?
2019.
2019 Raptor. It did have the live valve system, but he went ahead and put the race series shocks on this thing. So it does have race series shocks, both front and back, and he's running the E-Click system. So can you kind of give us an overview, Wayne, of what is the actual E-Click system? What does it entail?
Basically 3 main components. We have an ECU that we mount on the fuse box. We have an IMU that we mount on the firewall. And then inside the cab at the A-pillar, we have the actual controller that you get to tell it what you're doing on the fly as you're driving down the road.
Now, basically, you need to add a whole new computer because of the amount of processing that you're doing, right?
Yeah, we do 500 calculations per second, predicting what you're doing based on what the IMU is telling us, what 12 sensor inputs from the vehicle is telling us, and it's predicting what you're doing as you're driving down the road.
The typical Raptor system on the 19s and 20s does calculations about 30 times a second.
Yes.
Ford really made a big deal about how the new system does, what, 300 times a
300.
second? And this system outperforms that at
500.
500, which is very impressive. And we're going to go show you guys some footage on the trails where you guys can really see how impressive that actually is. We got some really cool footage of these trucks, put them through their paces, and it was impressive.
Way better than anybody expects.
I see there's a couple extra little dongles on here. What are these for?
For future possibilities. We're only using maybe 20 to 30% of the processing power of the ECU.
Wow.
Other things we may come up with the future. So we have the extra ports, so we can always just plug in and then start controlling other things.
What I've noticed is what really makes a difference is that little sensor right there, right?
Yeah, that's an 8-axis IMU. If you compare that to like cell phone watch size, this thing is 40 times the size of a cell phone. So it's a way more accurate. It knows where it is in reality at any given time. That's what makes the system so fast.
Do you use the sensors that are also on the truck for data?
We use some of the sensors. So we use wheel speed sensors, steering wheel position, brake pedal, throttle position. We do check its pitch, roll, yaw, that sort of stuff, just to see what it's telling us. And then it compares its data to our own data and then sets up the shocks.
I want to point out that this right here is a truck that came with live valve system from the factory, so it's a whole lot easier plug-in. This truck right here didn't. This is a 2018 Raptor, right?
It is.
And you are running factory live valve shocks in this thing, right?
I am.
These are factory live valve shocks. And I want to point something out here, guys.
Yep.
The system is identical with a few minor changes, right? You still get the sensor at the middle. You still get all the processing power. But what else do you have to do to make this truck work?
We have a harness for the truck. So we put a wire to each wheel so we can control the shocks at that point.
Basically similar to an OE harness.
Yeah, ours is just a separate, we're not using the factory wire, we use our own wiring.
If you don't have a live valve truck and you own a Ford truck, you can put this system on there. And you guys are working on making it possible for the Gen 1s to have it too, right?
F-150s, Gen 1s, they're talking
Can-Ams.
Can-Ams, excursions,
So basically,
expeditions.
anything that has currently live valves you guys can interface with.
Yeah.
And then you're working on adding it to anything that doesn't, right? That's
Yeah.
basically out there.
Yeah, so we do a lot with the UTV industry. So we do a lot of the Razors, the Can-Ams, the Hondas, the Cowies, pretty much all of them. If it comes with a Fox shock that does not have a live valve, we can install the live valves. If they have a live valve, we can control that shock way better than the companies can.
Before you guys do a run on live valve shocks, consider that these are not standard live valves. In order for this system to work correctly, there has to be some modification to the live valve systems, to the shocks themselves, for them to work right.
That is not necessarily correct.
Oh, really?
So we can use the stock shocks the way they are.
Mm-hmm.
But if you want to kick it up a notch and run your truck harder, faster, we need to revalve them.
So it's just like anything else. If you do proper valving, you'll get way more performance out of this.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, but you can run it on your stock setup. And then later on down the road, if you want to revalve, we can revalve it for you. The only difference is I'll need to get your ECU back because it's a different program to run a valved shock than a stock shock. And so we'll do an exchange program on the ECUs, be able to get everybody set up that way.
You guys are also going to do a shock exchange program too, right? Where you send in your shocks and you send them back a revalved set of shocks.
Correct, yeah. The hardest part is doing this is everybody's so picky about their own shocks. We're trying to get like OE takeoff, low mileage. Of course, we want to get the same shocks back in. If we get some shocks that come in that are a little more hammered, then we may just rebuild those and send them back out. So we're just trying to keep it fair and even to everybody.
Yeah, so the condition matches basically what you get
Yeah.
back, right? Which is important. If you guys do an exchange, consider this. If you're doing an exchange, you're going to get freshly rebuilt shocks. New oil, new seals, new everything. That's a big bonus to do. So,
which you need to do anyhow.
Yeah, ideally, you need to do it.
If you go even on Fox's website and look at their rebuilds, it says it all depends on how you drive it. It can be anywhere from 10,000 miles to 50,000 miles, depending on how long you run those shocks.
Yeah, and I think that's something a lot of people skip. You have to do regular intervals. If you off-road on the regular, if you skip that maintenance, your shocks will go bad. And I'll show you on another video how bad that can get.
So one of the cool things about my race series shocks that including with the SDI, I can still utilize my settings that I have here. I can go from firm, medium, or soft.
Yeah, so we made sure the valving was all set on the middle adjustability. So you still have, as the owner, the capability of going firm or soft, even with our revalve.
So that is kind of cool. So that means that you can still mess with the actual adjustment, the physical adjustment on the shock, not just what you can do inside.
Exactly.
Right now, guys, we're going to go ahead and cut over and show you guys some clips of the trucks on the trails. It's really cool to see the difference of what these trucks can do. So we're going to show you guys next. Before we start, let me give you guys an overview of all the trucks we're using for this comparison. First off, we have 2019 Raptor with stock live valves, stock suspension, all stock, driven by Hector. Next up is a 2018 truck that has stock springs but retrofitted with the E-Click system and SDI tuned Fox live valve shocks. This is SDI Racing's truck operated by Wayne. Next up is a 2018 Raptor with the Fox factory race series shocks and Beaver suspension in the back. We also had Cesar's truck, which is a 2019 live valve truck with the E-Click system and its tuned Fox factory race series shocks, but we did not end up using it for this compare. We'll use it on another video. And then finally, we had my truck out here with SVC's mid-travel suspension with dual shocks on the front, bypass shocks on all four corners. Now for testing purposes, we found a nice track that we can consistently do over and over again. And on that track, we were looking for specific obstacles to see how the suspension reacts. And we put all trucks through that same obstacle over and over again and filmed it, and then started off with 30 miles per hour and slowly ramped up the speeds toward 50 miles per hour for real world situations to show you how the suspension handles at different speeds and different conditions. For this video, we're going to mainly focus on the stock truck versus the factory race series truck for a side-by-side comparison. And then we're also going to add the Fox factory race series truck with the non-live valves to show you guys the difference in performance from a fully upgraded suspension. I think the results are going to surprise a lot of you. Next up, we ramped up the speed to 40 miles an hour on the same obstacle. Next, we ramped up the speed to 50 miles an hour. Unfortunately, our all-stock truck couldn't really handle this. It was already bottoming him out at 40, so he did not participate in this section. But we did add the mid-travel Raptor. So are you sure about this, Wayne? You're going to let me drive the truck?
Absolutely.
You sure?
Yeah.
I'm going to ask you one more time. Are you sure you want Helio from Keep It Dirty Off-Road to drive your truck?
Absolutely.
All right, we have 4 witnesses and 5 with Helio.
I have insurance. We're good.
All right, cool.
And I have a 5-year unlimited mile warranty.
It's just
I'm
a
good.
truck.
It might not after I get to
It's
my hands on
bumper to bumper.
It's just
It covers
a truck.
You might just get a bumper and a bumper.
it. Yeah. Are the keys in it?
He's in it.
All right, perfect.
Now, did you do the razor one?
Damn, they're tall.
Yep. All right, here we go. Yep, that's desert mode.
All right, let's go Baja, dude.
Okay.
I want to see what Baja's going to do two-wheel drive. All right, let's give this a try. We're at 4
33, 35. Going 50.
Hey, dude. The way it handles it is nuts, man.
It does, right?
It's like mid-travel.
That's what I was gonna say. Does it handle like your Gen 1?
Yes. It handles it a lot like fucking mid-travel, dude.
Without having to do the mid-travel upgrade. And that was 50.
That is very cool.
You gonna trade in your Gen 1 now?
No, fuck that. How do you make that feel like mid-travel, dude? Seriously.
That's crazy.
That's fucking nuts.
Tell him the movement on the rear wheel is like that would have been slow motion.
Went in, came back
It
up.
controls the rebound
Yeah.
really well, but it rebounds fast enough. It's ready for the next hole.
I kept expecting the back end to kick out, and it never did. Never did it. It feels better than
It
mid-travel.
never had
almost.
that pogo.
It didn't
Yeah.
get
It
upset.
just, suspension went up and down with it.
We put a secret sauce in the oil.
Fairy
Obvious-
dust or what?
Obviously, my shocks didn't get that.
That's pretty freaking cool, man.
You don't expect it.
No, you really don't. Because that felt a little bit more planted than I did.
You should drive our Jeep. Our Jeep will outrun that.
Really?
Hey, that Jeep can handle it. I drove it. I was amazed.
Why is it?
I could mob that Jeep at 55, 63.
All right, maybe when we're done, why don't we do
You
that?
got the built-in bump zone, so you'll be on top of the bumps all the way through.
Yeah.
Now finally, in this last test, I wanted to see how the truck would handle in situations where the trail was uneven, where it had to deal with from side to side movement. So we did the same test, repeated the speeds, started at 30 and ramped up, slowly went up to 50.
So we didn't want to put too much commentary in here because we really wanted the footage to speak for itself. I think overall the performance of the SDI E-Click system is very, very impressive. And the surprising part being is this truck is stock. It's using stock shocks with the new tune and the SDI system and really, really getting the maximum performance out of the suspension. Better than a truck with the Fox Factory Race Series shocks on it. So I think that was a big surprising factor. For you Gen 1 guys looking to get this system for your truck, it's definitely possible, and the SDI team used my truck to plan it out and verify that it can actually interface with the Gen 1 trucks. Happy to report it does. The only thing is you're going to need some changes, right? You're going to need a new shock bucket from Crazy House Customs in order to support the live valve shocks, and you'll need to get the takeoff shocks. Well, price will be the same as a non-live valve truck, so it's still an affordable solution and really is the next level of what you can do with these trucks. Next, we're going to cover the actual price of this system and go over how much it costs, whether you have a live valve truck or a non-live valve truck.
This one is set up for a JT, a Gladiator. So little quick QR instructions on how to do it. We have YouTube videos, everything lined up, showing you how to do the installation. ECUs, any wiring harnesses that you would need, an IMU with a mount where you need to put it. So this goes onto the ECU, so you have that connector. Since it's a Gladiator, it has a full body connector, and if we don't skimp on any of the Deutsch connectors, the sheathing, the wiring, it's all nicely done.
Better than OE. And there's that little controller right there.
It to go on the four-wheel drive shift.
That is awesome.
Right? So it looks OE when you're sitting in the driver's seat looking down at it. And of course you got to be able to see the E-Click.
That's pretty cool. That's a nice touch, man. That's attention to detail right there.
Yeah, we want to make sure that we are a step above everybody else. We're selling a premium product. We're not selling the starter kind of stuff for vehicles. This is definitely the people that want to use their vehicle to the more extreme.
They want to get that extra suspension travel and all
Yeah,
that stuff.
suspension travel, and then the comfort ride. It's just so much nicer.
What's the pricing for a kit like this for the Raptor?
So for the Raptor, so if you have a 19 up, it is $1,800 for the electronic.
What about non-live valve Raptors?
So 17 and 18, $2,100. And the difference is we are providing a full body harness. And most of the time when you pick up the 19 shock, they don't come with solenoid. So we're also supplying solenoid, and then we're milling, for the guys that can't get it, the end caps as well. So we'll be making all that available going forward.
Now on the Raptors, if you wanted to get your shocks revalved and done right, have you guys figured out that cost yet? Like
Yeah, if you drop off a set of shocks with me, it's $800.
$800, and you guys revalve them, whatever,
Yep.
right? Which
all new oils, check all the seals. If they need seals, we put seals in them.
And that's about the cost of a proper rebuild too, so that's a really good price considering what you guys are actually doing to it.
Yeah.
And then does that count for regular shocks and race series, or is there a difference between the race
Same
series?
price.
Same price?
So the only difference for us is going to be in the shock tuning. The OE shock that's not valved is one tune. Then we have a separate tune. If it's an OE shock that's revalved, I have a separate tune. And then if it's an FRS shock that's revalved, I have another tune.
What about shock exchange? I know that's something you're still setting up, but that's something you're going to be working on.
That's something we're looking at doing. We're trying to figure out the best way to make it easier for everybody. And we're trying to set up some dealers strategically around the country that can do it all with our secret sauce. So we'll tell them what to put in it, what fluids to use. We'll sell them the shim pack, and then they'll take care of it.
I think that's the challenge, right? Finding a shop that can do all of it.
Yeah.
Right? Because that's not always easy. Not all shops know how to rebuild shocks. You know,
No.
Some shops just want to swap stuff.
And a lot of guys, they don't have the dyno, so they can't test it to see where it is. They have to take it out and ride it and figure out if that's what they want or not. And there's too many variables when you're out in the field testing versus throwing it on a dyno.
Yeah, not just the trails, but the truck setup, the weight they carry, all that stuff plays into it.
Yeah, and on dynos don't lie.
My shocks got revalved to the weight that I carry in the back of the bed, the tires, my tools, my chest. So it got revalved to the way that I like to ride and to the weight that I carry.
Yeah. So thanks to Cesar, we actually have two different versions of valving for the FRSs.
Thanks, Cesar. No, and it really does make a difference, guys. If you guys don't know, the valving is night and day difference. If you get a custom tune for your setup, the way you ride, you get that extra 10%, and it makes all the difference in the world.
It does. It does. And
it's not cheap though.
Dan is one of those kind of guys that will keep going until he's happy. If he's not happy, like we were supposed to have his truck for a day, and he told him no, we need it longer. So we ended up having it for like a week.
Yep.
And we rebuilt the shocks 3 or 4 times.
4 times.
4 times.
And so I was happy, and so Dan was happy with me.
Yes.
Wow. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, so Dan's been doing this stuff forever. KYB, Kawasaki, he's been doing shock tuning for a very long time. So he knows what it's supposed to feel like.
All right, guys, so that's it. A lot of material we covered here. We showed you guys how well it performs, what the actual kit is, all that goes into it, all the experience behind this shop. If you guys want to get a kit, make sure you go to their website,
eclickshocks.com.
eclickshock.com. Based on our experiences today, guys, we are blown away. To basically drive a stock 18 Raptor and have it feel like my mid-travel Raptor was eye-opening. This system is killer. So it's something I do highly recommend. And we're going to be testing it a whole lot more here with Cesar. He's going to be joining quite a bit of our runs. So we're really going to see what that system can do.
I'd love to join the runs with you. Let's go.
Oh, and that's the thing.
Fun.
This man was behind me on the last run, and I swear to God, I couldn't shake him. I couldn't shake him, and he had that 18 with the E-Click system, which is pretty impressive. All right, guys, thanks a lot for watching. Put any questions, comments below. Don't forget to subscribe. See you guys on the next one.
Thanks for your time.